Doctor's Heartfelt House Call is a gentle, emotionally charged short film that captures the tender intersection between care and confession, friendship and romance, hesitation and relief. It opens with Kelsey, who has recently been under the weather, receiving a visit from her close friend Puck, who happens to be a doctor. The setup is intimate but innocent, a friend checking in after work to make sure someone she cares about is feeling better. Yet from the beginning, the tone suggests that there's something more beneath the surface. An unspoken tension wrapped in affection, a feeling that both characters have carried but neither has dared to name. This story unfolds not through action or spectacle, but through subtle expressions of concern, nervous laughter, and the universal rhythm of a heart beating a little too fast in the presence of someone you love. The beauty of this film lies in how it uses something as simple as a medical checkup to mirror emotional vulnerability. As Puck begins to examine Kelsey, checking temperature, breathing, pulse, she is performing the duties of her profession, but symbolically, she is also crossing into the emotional territory that queer women often navigate with great care. The balance between friendship and romantic desire, between what is safe and what is true. Kelsey, meanwhile, is visibly flustered, struggling to appear composed even as the closeness of her friend sets off a cascade of feelings she's tried to keep hidden. When Puck listens to Kelsey's heartbeat and remarks on how fast it's racing, it becomes the perfect metaphor. Kelsey's heart is literally betraying her secret. The physical merges with the emotional. The doctor's stethoscope becomes a conduit not only for sound but for understanding. The pivotal moment comes when Kelsey confesses the truth. Her heart is pounding not from illness but from love. It's a moment every queer woman can relate to. The fear of saying too much, of turning a safe friendship into something uncertain, of stepping beyond the boundaries society has long imposed on women's emotional intimacy. For lesbian and bisexual viewers, Kelsey's confession resonates deeply because it captures the risk inherent in queer love, the fear that honesty will destroy what already exists. Friendships between women are often culturally romanticized as close, nurturing, and affectionate, but only as long as they remain platonic. When feelings cross that invisible line, they are suddenly treated as a threat. Kelsey's anxiety about ruining the friendship reflects that ingrained societal tension. What makes this story powerful is how it resolves. Not with rejection or awkwardness, but with mutual revelation. Puck admits that she too has feelings for Kelsey, and had simply assumed they were unreciprocated. This dual confession is more than a narrative payoff. It represents a larger truth about how often love between women is silenced by fear, even when it exists on both sides. Many lesbian women have lived that experience, the moment when affection that has long been coded as just friendship turns out to have been something more all along. There's a bittersweet familiarity to that realization. How many queer relationships have begun not with grand gestures but with quiet admissions like these, whispered after years of shared laughter and closeness? Thematically, Doctor's Heartfelt House Call is a story about care, medical care, emotional care, and self-care. In queer culture, caregiving often occupies a special place. Because LGBTQ relationships historically lacked social validation or legal recognition, love within these communities often developed through small, deeply human gestures of care, showing up, checking in, being present. Puck's house call is therefore more than a medical visit. It's an act of love disguised as professionalism, and later revealed as the genuine tenderness it always was. There's something profoundly subversive about that, because it reclaims caregiving, traditionally seen as a feminine duty, and reimagines it as a space for queer agency. Puck's profession as a doctor gives her authority and skill, but the story shows that true healing comes from emotional honesty. When Kelsey's heart is diagnosed, what she really needs isn't medicine, but mutual understanding. For lesbian viewers, this moment, two women confessing affection and realizing it's mutual, is particularly poignant because it inverts one of society's most persistent double standards. When men express feelings, it's often celebrated as romantic bravery. When women do, especially toward other women, it's seen as taboo, comedic, or experimental. This bias stems from a long cultural history that infantilizes female intimacy and erases its seriousness. Society accepts women being close, but only if it fits a certain mold. Hugs and tears are fine, but passion or romantic desire between women is still something that many view as too much. That discomfort reveals how much patriarchal systems rely on controlling women's relationships to each other. If women are emotionally self-sufficient, if they find love and care within their own gender, they become less dependent on men. And that independence threatens the traditional order. Yet films like Doctor's Heartfelt House Call quietly challenge that order by normalizing tenderness between women. The tone is gentle, not sensationalized, and that's precisely what makes it powerful. There is no tragedy, no shame, no punishment for love, just two adults realizing they've felt the same way all along. Representation like this matters because it expands what queer love can look like on screen. Too often, lesbian stories are filtered through extremes, either fetishized or tragic. But this film offers something rare, a moment of sincerity, of mutual respect, where love grows naturally out of care and friendship. That's what makes it relatable not just to lesbians but to all women. For many women, regardless of sexuality, the experience of suppressing emotions, worrying about how vulnerability might be received, or feeling torn between professionalism and intimacy is universal. Kelsey's nervousness as her friend examines her body can be read symbolically as the discomfort many women feel under scrutiny, whether medical, societal, or emotional. To be examined is to be exposed, and women are constantly examined in life, for beauty, for behavior, for conformity. The moment she admits her feelings, she reclaims that exposure. She names what she feels instead of letting it be interpreted by others. This act of confession is therefore an act of autonomy, a declaration that her emotions belong to her and are worthy of being spoken aloud. Puck's response, kind, surprised, but open, embodies the best of queer representation, compassion without judgment. Her admission that she shares those feelings validates not just Kelsey, but also every viewer who has feared rejection. In that sense, the story functions as a microcosm of queer hope. Love is not always doomed, not always impossible. Sometimes it's simply waiting for someone to be brave enough to say it first. This mutual revelation also reflects a recurring motif in LGBTQ storytelling, the idea that truth once spoken creates connection. Silence breeds loneliness, but honesty, however risky, can bring relief. When both women realize their affection is mutual, the film transforms from a story of anxiety into one of healing. From a cultural standpoint, Doctor's heartfelt house call fits within a long lineage of lesbian cinema that explores quiet, everyday intimacy rather than overt political struggle. It follows in the footsteps of films and series that highlight ordinary love, where characters aren't defined by their sexuality, but by their humanity. That's what makes the story socially important. It normalizes same-gender affection as just another form of love. In doing so, it pushes back against a world that still reacts uneasily to women's autonomy over their hearts and bodies. The film also taps into the archetype of the healer. In mythology and literature, healers are often women who mend others but neglect their own needs. Here, Puck embodies that archetype, yet the story subverts it by allowing her to heal herself through vulnerability. When she admits her own feelings, she steps out of the role of detached caretaker and into one of equal participant in love. Kelsey, meanwhile, transitions from patient to partner, from the one being cared for to someone who gives care back through emotional truth. This balance is central to healthy queer relationships. It rejects hierarchies and replaces them with reciprocity. On a symbolic level, the heartbeat itself becomes a metaphor for authenticity. In the beginning, it's the symptom that conceals emotion. By the end, it becomes proof of love. Society may still struggle to accept two women in love because it challenges long-held assumptions about gender roles, but films like this remind us that love itself is natural, physiological, undeniable. It beats in all hearts the same way. Whether one calls it biology or poetry, the message is clear. Love is not an anomaly, but an essential rhythm of life. Ultimately, Doctor's heartfelt house call delivers a quiet revolution wrapped in tenderness. It reminds viewers that confession can be healing, that love between women is not deviant but deeply human, and that care, whether physical, emotional, or romantic, is the most universal form of connection. It shows that vulnerability is strength, that honesty is the first step toward wholeness, and that sometimes the greatest remedy for a racing heart is not medication but mutual understanding. The film's soft lighting, domestic setting, and understated dialogue all contribute to a sense of realism, anchoring its message in the everyday. It's not a fantasy, it's a mirror held up to real women who love, worry, and hope just the same as anyone else. And perhaps that's the quiet brilliance of it. By treating two women's love as something ordinary, it makes it extraordinary. In the end, the house call that began as medical becomes spiritual. A visit not to diagnose illness, but to rediscover love's most human pulse.